Welcome to Euroforum UG, where we address Ugandans from Europe, USA, Asia, Africa, Australia, and all over the globe. We share experiences, opinions, and expertise on current affairs, educative lifestyle, religion, and family matters. Follow, subscribe, and like our social media platforms: Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok at Euroforum UG. You can also join our live shows every weekend on our social media platforms. For more information, visit our social media platforms or email us at euroforumug@gmail.com or WhatsApp us on +4740 574040. Euroforum UG, communicating with peers.
I greet you all. This is Euroforum. Moses Mugisha is your host today. I'm right here in Oslo, Norway. I take the privilege to serve you today as well, as you're coming to the end of the first quarter of 2025. With me, I've come with a gentleman, Musa Kalyango. He's one of our regular guests. He resides in Denmark, Copenhagen. And we've come to create awareness on depression. Depression is one of the mental health disorders that have internally torn in pieces families, shattered dreams, but have also caused death through suicide. As we speak, statistics has it that 5% of the world population is affected by depression, and the percentage of women surpasses that of men. We've had cases all over social media in the recent past where deaths have been tied to depression, and there are those cases where people have shared from personal experience on the same. The gentleman who is going to take the platform today, he himself has also been a victim, and we are delighted to have him share from personal experience. As we know, it's not that easy for someone to come out and speak out and share from personal experience. But I want to appreciate you, Sebo, Mr. Kalyango, for taking off time to come and impact both knowledge, inspire confidence, and above all, hope to a probable victim or to a victim out there. But otherwise, I want to thank you all for already sparing time to watch Euroforum. This is your platform where we communicate with peers every Sunday. We are at your service at around this time. Today we come in at 7 European Central Time. Usually we are here at 16:30. So we want to encourage you that take time, check out our previous shows, and don't forget to subscribe on our Facebook and YouTube channels, TikTok, and as well as Instagram. Invite a friend to also invite one. To you, our viewers out there who know us for being bilingual, this time we are airing this show in English. We believe and hope that it will be very inclusive, the fact that we are addressing a vice that knows no boundaries. This is a month, a holy month to both our Muslim fraternity and Christian fraternity. It's the Lent period to the Christians and Ramadan to the Muslims. Njagala bala musako. Wasilamu bannaffe n'ekiramuso ekikulu nti assalamu alaikum mwenna gye muli. I want to appreciate you all who have taken off time to walk the path of Ramadan and Lent period. I join you to pray that may the good Lord answer all your prayer requests. Yes, without further ado, I want to bring to you Mr. Kalyango Musa. Is a mentor of many here in the Scandinavian. He's a father, he's a friend, and he's also a football coach. But he's also one who inspires confidence through sharing his experience. As I said, Mr. Kalyango has been a victim of depression, and we are delighted to be having an experience-based point of view on depression. Omkulu Sebo Kalyangu, we are delighted to have you, Sebo. May you greet our viewers.
Oh, thank you for hosting me, Mr. Mugisha. And I'm also delighted to be here. I may start by saying, Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm actually among the few or many Muslims that are fasting this holy month of Ramadan. As that said, one aspect that you didn't mention, I'm not only sitting as a victim of the depression, but I'm also a medical personnel. So in the field, I also have some information regarding depression. As you mentioned, it's a fifth of the entire world of people that are dying out of depression. It is true, actually, just to put numbers, it's approximately almost 700,000 people yearly that die out of depression. And as that said, actually, there are some numbers that actually go unrecorded. As you know, in the new young generation from between 15 and 29, there is a massive amount of number of boys, children, and girls who are actually committing suicide. But to our dismay, some of these people actually die of depression, but because it is suicidal, they end up saying there was an accident. And so these numbers actually end up into under, they are recorded as accidents, whereas these factors have it that these actually, some of them do commit suicide intentionally. So it is a good topic. Thank you that you're putting light on this, because it's actually affecting us, mostly even us like immigrants, because at one time I heard a number of people saying, mostly as you said, I'm a coach, and these young men from Uganda and all over other places in the country were saying we Africans normally don't fall victim of depression, which is a lie, because depression hits every person, not only human being, but even animals actually. The facts have it that even animals, they do get depressed. So on the religious side of my religion in Islam, that's why they even emphasize that don't kill an animal while you put it in front of another and just to watch it being killed. So that is just to show you that even animals do get depressed. For example, if you have a cat in the house and the killings died, you may end up finding the bigger cat, the elder cat, being depressed. So depression can hit each and every one. It has no segregation of age and gender and what and so on. But to come back on the question, you asked me to talk on the personal point of view of how it has affected me and how I overcame it. Yeah, I lost my dear wife, the mother of my children, my 3 kids.
Mr. Kalyangu, allow me cut you short.
Yes, please.
Before you, yes, we get that side of that very touching story. I would love you to open up. There are things we assume that average humans know what it means. But actually, we need to give direction to this show by opening up what is depression. What does depression mean?
Depression actually is a mental disorder which affects your brain, your thinking capacity. Now, depression can be very big. It takes time. We can take a whole day explaining what it is. But there are some symptoms that you can look at in order to tell that you are depressed. And normally, we have a checklist and how to see and define and see that someone is being depressed. So the checklist, I will give you some of the symptoms. And these symptoms, actually, when you see them occurring approximately 14 days, and you have 4 of these symptoms that I'm going to mention down, then of course you have to see a doctor right away and know that something could be wrong. Now, if you find yourself being like, you feel like really hopelessness, there's a lot of hopelessness in you. You don't feel like, you don't feel like you're feeling a lot of tiredness, disturbance in your sleeping. It can be too much sleeping. It can be loss of sleeping, loss of appetite. You don't feel like doing anything. You feel like, I don't want to get out of the house. Even the small things that you normally look at in someone, if you tell someone, I've been seated here for hours and hours, and I don't even feel the urge to get out of here, just take this cup down to my washing dishwash. If just those small things that can affect someone that you normally do without even a blink of an eye. Now, if you're in such a situation, if you have like 4 of these mentioned symptoms, then you need to seek a doctor. And something has to be, and it has to be like continuous for approximately 14 days. If you have that, then please don't sit down, don't hesitate, just to go and seek a doctor. And prior to that, there could be some other things that must have affected you. Say, for example, loss of a job. You lose your job all of a sudden. You are experiencing divorce. You are experiencing family loss, a beloved one, a beloved member in the family. And then right after these things, then you get all these side effects that as I've mentioned above. When you experience these side effects, then please seek a doctor. Then you need some medical attention right away. Because I think we take these things so slightly, and at the end of the day, we end up in a dilemma of losing someone. Now, one may ask, what really happens to the brain? What really causes all this? What happens to the brain that all of a sudden you lose the ability to do all things? I made a little bit of a small drawing here. I don't know. Mugisha, do you see it?
Yes, I do. Could you bring it close?
Yeah. I could try to see if I can explain it from here. What exactly happens to the brain? This is the pre-synapses, and this is the post-synapses. So normally what happens to the brain is that there is no connection between the pre-synapses and post-synapses. You get the impulse that comes in here. There is an arrow that I put, and these arrows are formed up in small bags, and these bags they contain serotonin. You see, they contain serotonin. So when the bag is filled up, it comes out here, and then the bag is split out. So it goes from this pre-synapses to the post-synapses. Now, what happens in the corner here? There is a system that goes on rotating like this. So it gets the serotonin, which comes from down here. It comes up here, then it picks up again, then it rotates. Now I'll give you an example. For example, when you are in a comedy show, for example, and people are laughing and making fun of everything, a small joke that people can laugh for almost an hour. When you are depressed, this system here that works on correcting the serotonin from pre-synapses to post-synapses doesn't work. Now you may hear someone making a joke, but in your mind, it doesn't even sound like a joke. And then you'll be wondering, what is happening to these people? Why are they laughing? Because it's not fun for you. Then there is no connection between pre-synapses and post-synapses. Now, what we do when you take the medicine builds a bridge from pre-synapses to post-synapses. And the bridge is called the BDNF. So that's what helps you to join from these two posts, pre-synapses and post-synapses. Otherwise, in the situation when someone is depressed, the serotonin just remains here in the synapses skeleton.
Mr. Kalyango, serotonin.
Yes, please.
Synapses, what are these terms? Open them up to a layman's understanding.
Now, these are terms that you can get, for example, as well, why people think that African people don't get depressed because we are so rich in the fact that in Africa we get a lot of sun. You get D vitamin. In D vitamin, you can get serotonin. When you have sex, you can have serotonin. It's like what you could call the gift you get out of a chirungo, chirungo. The benefits you get from having what you can get as a benefit. So
A kind
that
of
is when you eat like that. Well, for example, when you eat sugar, what comes out of sugar to the body? So that's what comes out, like the sugar of the brain is serotonin.
Okay.
And that is what gives you the happiness. And that's what makes you happy when you're smiling. Then your smile is like continuous. Contrary to someone who is depressed, when they smile, it is like a fake smile. They will open up their mouth and right away close it. You see? So it's like you would be in a crowd of people, 1,000 people, having fun, but you don't even see what they're laughing about. So to you, it doesn't make sense. It's
So
like, what
it's
are
more
they
like
laughing?
adrenaline in the muscles.
Exactly. But now
So
this is now the brain.
The brain. So that is the adrenaline in the brain.
In the brain.
Is released. Okay.
That is released. Yeah. That is released to have all these benefits in the body. Now, that is what is wrong with someone when someone is depressed. Now, contrary to someone who is like hyper tensioned, the same picture, you'll be having a lot of adrenaline, a lot of serotonin coming back and forth between the two there. Then there is a lot of serotonin coming back and forth. Now, when you take the medicine goes in and blocks on the D cup. So that's the difference between being depressed and being hypertension, like you being like you're so happy all the time. So the difference of being depressed is the control of being hypertension, like you heal up all the way, like you can't even put your arms down as normally say in Danish. So coming back to these symptoms, when you feel there is a lot of sadness and feeling hopelessness, you feel like there's low of self-esteem, you feel like there is the inability to feel the joy and to interact and be in day-to-day life. You're having problem in keeping, you just want to be indoors. You want to close all doors. You want to be in darkness. Problem with sleeping. It could be too much or less sleeping. Now, when you experience all these small factors, then please seek a doctor. Then you know something has to be wrong and you have to react right away. I think that explains a little bit about the symptoms and what happens when we are depressed, just to make it a little bit shorter.
Yes. At least that gives a hint. Depression to just as in skin rashes, one could relate it to ringworms, that you don't really feel it directly. So I think it's important that our viewers get to know at least a few of the symptoms. Let's just take it really fast. To you who has just joined in, it's a talk about depression, the strings attached to it, symptoms, how to curb it, and of course how to live a life past the symptoms or having been a victim of depression. We are delighted to have a guest who is both a medical worker in that field, as you've just heard him explain and break down what depression is in a more technical perspective. Yes, he commands the field, so he qualifies for this issue in that aspect. And more to that, he has been a victim of depression. So we shall be glad to hear him share from personal experience. And yes, you're actually sharing how you rebounded or how the experience was, but I'll let you share the experience of this. And
Now, personally, as I said earlier, I lost my wife in 2012 at the age of 34. It was cancer. And I will tell you, it was not an easy way to turn myself back to the field. But now, this is now where you have to see where we have to be active. Because normally a healthy body leads a healthy lifestyle and has also a healthy brain. That is one thing. So being healthy, keeping myself into sports helped me a lot. And then into treating depression, there's what we call cognitive therapy. Cognitive therapy is the methodology that we utilize in order to avoid utilizing medicine. So in this way, I utilized sports as a way of coming out of my depression, other than utilizing medicine. Because what you have to realize that every kind of medicine that you put into your body has also a side effect.
Yeah, sure.
Now, with the cognitive therapy, you don't have any side effect. It's only that it may take longer, but at the end of the day, you actually get out stronger on the other side. Now, what I did, I utilized actually football because I was always out with kids playing and coaching. The fact that I was I'm a trained coach who is paid to train, to coach. So first and foremost, I could not just call and say I'm not coming because I was always with 30 to 40 kids waiting for me. So that assignment I made it a must for me that come what may, I have to go and train these kids. Because whenever I came, I would be joyful. They would be laughing and, real laughter when you're having these kids between the age of 13 to 15 and 17 at most. You see, so there was another life altogether. So for me, football was the one of the gateway besides training, personal training, like lifting weights and boxing and doing what and so on. So that was the only way that helped me overcome the depression that after losing my wife. And I would emphasize actually anyone to utilize it. Besides, if you don't want to utilize the medicine, as I said, in order to avoid all the side effects that may come out of utilizing the medicine. But we also have another way of treating depression, which is ECT, electrostimulators therapy, where they take then they give you some electrical strokes to the brain. So approximately 10, 15 seconds, and then they release. It's also a very healthy way of doing it. It shocks the brain and stimulates all the small veins, and it opens up each and everything. As you recall, the system that I told you that it has to take the serotonin back from the pre-synapses to post-synapses, that again opens it up. But there's no evidence that this process here cannot regenerate again. You cannot have the depression once again. It can chew for a little bit of time, but then again, it can as well come back. So personally, I would think that the best way to deal with depression would always be that you indulge into sports, and probably if you can have like working out. If you're not so active in sport, then go out and take some walks to the beach, go out and, walk around, go to the bush, go to the, forests, and, get yourself busy. But as you know, it's easy said than done, because normally when you are depressed to that level, sometimes people end up to having, as I said, you feel helpless and you feel like your hopelessness. There's that kind of feeling that is always urging you. You feel like you are just seeing the negative side of it. You cannot see any future. You cannot see the light beyond the tunnel. And that's actually what leads to being suicidal. And if you find someone having some of these symptoms that I mentioned, please try to be gentle in handling them and talking to them, because
Mr.
they may
Kayamba,
not.
allow me interject a bit.
Yes, please.
There is one thing sharing about something from a theoretical or an intellectual perspective, but there is also another sharing from personal experience. Now that you're sharing from personal experience, I know there is a depth at which you can go. The way you put it, that what helped you rebound to your normal life was using sports. Could you go a little deeper into that? It sounds quite simple, sports, okay, but losing a wife, losing a partner, losing a beloved one, is something really deep. So how did these sports help you rebound in modern
Yeah, as I said, first and foremost, I had a contract with the clubs that I was coaching. So I would not just say I'm not coming. But besides that, the joy that I got when coming out, being out in the fresh air,
Mm.
seeing these kids who are smiling and smiling back to me. You know, one of the problems that you can have is when someone loses a beloved one, and then people try to, to distance themselves. That's
Mm.
one of the worst thing they can do. But now with children, they are more open. They will always come, hug, and they know they will tell that you're not in your good moods. So they will
Yeah,
always
sure.
come around you and you
Mm.
try to ask you questions. And the more you talk about it, the more you heal.
Mm.
You see? So it was the healing process for me being around kids who are always joyful and have all the dreams and everything. You know, when you're a kid, you feel like you can conquer the entire world. So for me, it was the best way to be around kids who have all the entire world watching them, and they know that their life is safe and everything. They did not have
Asking
any
all these
ways.
innocent questions about
Exactly,
almost everything.
exactly. But it was not an easy thing, as you say, because I will tell you, I had my youngest was only 3 years at the time. So one of the breaking point when I was dealing with depression, he one day he came back home and he asked me, I remember when we were burying mom because I'm a Muslim, so I bought a piece of land and I leased it for 40 years, and then she was buried in that piece. So she was buried as we do in Uganda. She was not incriminated as most people do here. So in the school in the Banhe where he went, they were telling him, you don't have to worry. Your mom is in heaven. And then he remembers that the mom was buried. He remember that we buried her in the ground. So he came home and he was asking me, Dad, which is which? Because I remember mommy was buried in the ground, and now at school they were telling me she's in heaven. So where is she really? Is she
Imagine the
no?
confusion.
Yeah. So that was a really hard one. And the reason as why I would like to put that out is like, don't be a professional. So you may be a professional. I may have worked with the depressed people. I may work because in my career I've worked in mental hospitals in Hillel, and I've worked also in another place where it was only basically mental. But as that said, I had to seek professional help as well, because the worst thing that can happen, and one of the worst cases we see normally in the teenagers, as the reason as why there's a lot of suicide, is because then they want to do what we call self-medication. And the moment you start with that, then you end up drinking. That's why we see there's a lot of kids who are dying of overdose. There's a lot of kids who are dying of accidents, because when you drink, you can self-medicate yourself at that particular time. Then you don't feel the urge to have all the questions and answers. But then again, the booze that you've taken is just amount of time. What happens exactly when the booze is not there, when you're not drunk? Then you
Then
face the
reality
reality.
kicks in.
Yeah. So
Mr.
in
Kaliango,
action,
let me just double check to see if I'm on track with you. As I understood, you are living as a football coach.
yes, please.
Yes, coming out, meeting kids, and having this interactive physical activity was yes one thing, but in the deeper end, there was this interaction, verbal interaction, speaking out,
Mm,
having people to talk to.
mm,
And then regarding medication, you're emphasizing that regardless of how expert you might be, or you might be maybe a counselor, a mental health worker, or in
mm,
that field,
mm,
avoid, desist from self-medication, speak out,
mm.
seek help.
Speak out. Speak out.
Thank you. Let,
Which
let,
we
let's,
call
let's help.
cognitive therapy.
Mm.
You either use the cognitive therapy, where you go out in the field, go and get the sun, go and walk, get the environment, but don't remain indoors.
Mm.
Avoid being indoors, Because the moment you remain indoors and lock yourself and close everything, then you don't get the sun. Then there will be a lot of weight loss. There will be a loss of appetite. More symptoms will again come. And your dismay, you may not even verify this. You can even sit, for example, where I'm seated right now, and I would feel like I need to go to the toilet, but I'll just keep on postponing. Not now, not now. And the same goes for the drink. You would be here seated and you feel like you're thirsty. But even the urge to go and get a glass of water in the fridge becomes a tug of war. You keep postponing, and that goes as well for the appetite. The fact that you don't have the appetite, you may not even have the time, the ability to go and prepare yourself a meal.
Yeah, sure.
So
Mr.
in this,
Kayam,
yes, please.
speaking of speaking out and finding someone to talk to, people out there, maybe including myself, have trust issues. Were you kind of hesitant when you thought of speaking out? Were you hesitant about who to speak to because of trust issues around the spaces you lived in?
No, actually, I'm delighted that I have my boys first and foremost. And now they are grown, and they were more than just children, but they were friends. And so we used to talk about issues, and we would analyze things on a wider perspective. I would talk to them. That was my first, my first healers, my children. And then, of course, I have family back home that I could call and we could talk about things. But the problem now is like being so far away from home. Sometimes people may not understand you. But I am so delighted that I have a young brother who understands me so well. I would call and we would talk about things. Sometimes now when you're in such a situation, the worst thing that can happen to you is having someone who is nagging you. Like having you call home, you want to talk to them about your problems, and they're telling you about so and so did this, and then we don't have money for that, and then we need help. So I was delighted that I had people to call that I would talk to and open up. And if I needed to cry, then I would cry. Things like that. Because some of the problems that we also have as men is we think that crying is something that is childish, which is the contrary.
We don't want
It
to be
is childish.
vulnerable.
Exactly. It is childish not to cry, not to show your emotions. When you are emotionless, then of course, then you are something else. So in medical terms, if you're the kind of person who pushes away your emotions, then of course you are not normal. But in the African context, we try to pretend that men don't cry. We try to pretend that men are always, you are big and strong, so you are never supposed to show emotions. I was the contrary. Good enough, I had the knowledge, which had to helped me shape me. So where I needed to cry, I would cry because it helped me and release the hunger. And the other thing was, which was not so good, I kind of walked away from sex. And the reason as to that was I didn't want to indulge into having a relationship because I never wanted anyone to come into and take to take the love from my children, because I knew that they also lost their mother, just like I did. I lost a wife and I lost a friend and they lost a mother. So bringing someone into my life would have helped me, because having sex would have helped me also having the dopamine and so on, which would have helped into my mental health. But again, probably it would have taken away the love. I would have shared my love that I was supposed to give to the child who missed. Imagine my youngest was only 3 years. So I chose to abstain from sex for quite a bit of time, and to give him time to grow and feel that I was there for him. And then I tried to like put myself aside for the sake of my child. So
Mr. Kalyango, out of curiosity and of course for learning purposes, yes, the fact that you rebounded, we can going by the saying that the end result justifies the means. We can agree and assume that all your methods worked out. But maybe they wouldn't have worked out for someone, because you started by saying another thing which wasn't good. So you agree that abstaining from sex isn't such a good move. So what is your ultimate recommendation? Yes, it might have worked for you for fear of taking away the love for the children, but what is your ultimate recommendation regarding sex for a depressed someone?
You see, sex, when you look at the pyramid needs, sex is always placed under the basic needs. Sex, sleep, eat, and these are basic needs that each and every human being has to have. But for my sake, I grew up not having my parents together. They had divorced. So at any cost, I remember the hardship I went through growing up with a stepmom and not having my mother around me. I never ever wished my children to feel the same. So I decided to sacrifice my life and put it aside for the sake of the well-being of my children. But and that worked out for me. Not every man can do that. Not every man can do that, but I managed to do it. It may work for me, it cannot work for you. But
Yeah,
as I said,
hmm.
as I said, sex is supposed to be there, regardless. If you're mourning, if you're doing what, you're supposed to have sex. It will help you heal a little bit earlier.
That was really bold, but of course driven by love.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we are glad that it worked out. Then you hinted, yes, about trust issues. You are lucky that you had a support structure, a trustable support structure. But we cannot rule out that there are people who would really love to speak out, but they have trust issues. A word to these people.
Now, the problem we're living actually in the African context, we believe that when someone has a mental illness, then this person is an outcast. And we point fingers and we always talk down on people who are depressed. But tell me, who has never experienced divorce? Who has never experienced loss of family members? I mean, depression is a reality that happens and can hit each and every one of us. We experience financial instability. I mean, the reasons as to why we get depressions are just to the next step you're taking, the next breath that you're taking, the next blink of an eye that you're blinking. You cannot avoid it. It's inevitable. So the only way is to find ways of how we can cope up and try to knock to doors of our friends and try to, find ways of how to bring ourselves together. We are now delighted that we have this African, the Euro tournament. Someone may look at it as something that is just for fun and people drink, but besides that, there is also a whole lot of information we get from one another. Just looking at a fellow Ugandan in the eye, and you see their smile, genuine smile, and just laughing at the bottom of your lungs. That alone helps you a lot. It is a healing process that if every Ugandan knew the goodness of this Euro tournament. And big up to the organizers who started it. I'm just a coach, but we have the Alex Nduga, all those people behind this tournament, I think, and you, Moses, as well, you're among those. Big up to you, because this is the only way that we come together. And when you look at Red Zone, he's doing a great job here as well in Denmark, trying to bring musicians, because that's what I used to do with my fellow friend Peter Antende. We used to bring musicians here, not because we wanted to earn money. We never earned anything actually out of it, but out of love and bringing people together. So I would urge every Ugandan, wherever you are, and so whoever is listening, that whenever there is a function that brings you together, please, for the sake of the goodness, try to be there and try to show your face and be part of it. The benefit may not be financial, but the benefits are uncountable. You cannot count them on fingers.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kalyango. Speaking of events and social gathering, you highlighted the Eurocrane tournament. Below the screen, you see a recommendation to buy your tickets to Helsinki, Finland for the biggest Ugandan event in Europe. That's the European tournament 2025. That will be on the 4th to the 6th of July. And of course, a call to you who would love to hire vendor space to advertise. Please contact Kakensa, one of the organizers in Finland, on the number below the screen. Thank you, Sebo Mkulu Kalyango. As we share on things like depression, we are acknowledging the need, the dire need of making U-turns in our societies. I'll be more specific and intentional. I'm addressing, to start with, immigrant societies, but in the broader picture, all the societies we live in. Why immigrant societies? That in a range of things, immigrants have an X factor in how we face them, how we approach them, how we navigate them. And this particular one, depression and all these mental disorders, comes with a range of things. And among those, there is a baggage of shattered hope, shattered dreams, shattered expectations, and things like that. So Mr. Kalyango shares his experience, but it's only a segment of the bigger picture. And I hope someday we shall come and open it up more and more. Mr. Kalyango.
Yes, sir.
In this very line of immigrants, are there any particular challenges or causes of depression that are tied to immigrants?
Oh, yes, I believe so, because you could imagine moving from a place where you know your ways, your A's and Z's, Z, coming to unknown destination where you don't even know. Some people actually migrate coming, not even knowing where they're going to stay, who is going to receive them. Not only that, you're going to a place where you know that you're going to be segregated. So that alone leaves you into a lot of question marks. And it's always those unknown destinations that leads us to hitting a depression. Now, you can imagine most of us, we come to Europe. I was lucky. I was married. Even before I came here, I knew where I was going to stay. But not everyone has that kind of luck. You know, some people come here when they don't even know where they're going to end up, when they're going to stay. For how long they are staying, they don't even, some come even without any pocket money. So all these are problems that we face as immigrants coming from different places. And then again, you come to a place where you have your morals that are going to be devaluated. Now imagine, as a Muslim, in Ramadan, I would be happily putting on my kanzu, what and so on, eating with friends. But now here, if I'm lucky, my boys would come home. But most cases, they also have their own families. So such small things that we take for granted back home, these are the things we normally miss when we are here. You know, having family members and having fun and, you know, talks and laughters, these are things that we miss. You may have, you know, a bank reading which is so healthy, but then again, the emotional part, you lack it. So there are actually so many reasons as to why we immigrants are normally hit by these depressions. So, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Kalyango. Statistics puts it clearly that of the 5%, that is around 280 million people in the world, the bigger percentage is women. How would you justify this? How would you interpret these statistics? Why women are more vulnerable?
Actually, these statistics don't normally go in details. Everyone can pull it according to what they wish. Personally, if you had asked me, I would have said men. We are looking at the statistics because men, we are not good at opening up, whereas ladies are good at opening up. And the reason as to why they find out that is ladies is because they are good at seeking medical help. They seek attention.
Also, from a layman's understanding, I'd also think men are more
more vulnerable because we don't seek medical attention. What we do, actually, we die. And when we die, we commit suicide sometimes. Sometimes we drink ourselves. So we get overdose, we get, you know, and then they say they died of accident, they died of alcohol. But what is the cause of the alcohol? What happened before I started drinking? What happened before I got the overdose? What happened? What caused this? Is what they don't normally tell you. And in my understanding, it's always the depression behind it that is not recorded. So to get back to that, I don't believe the statistics are right. Those statistics are not right. I believe men are more depressed than women, but we are not just good at sharing and seeking medical attention. So
Thank you,
that's
sir.
the easiest I can say.
Yes, I was on Friday. I was watching news on our one of the Norwegian TVs here, TV stations that's in Arako, and there was a statistics that was very shocking. That 1 out of 90 immigrants, it is only 1 out of 90 immigrants that are active in sports or athletics at the national level. That is Norway. Do you have any rough idea of how involved immigrants are in sports or athletics at the national level in Denmark?
No, I'm not so sure about. I don't
Can
have
you come
any
with figures?
statistics.
But do you see the prevalence or the trend of immigrants' engagement in sports or activities? How is it?
The problem is that we, as immigrants, according to what I see here, normally when we come home, when we come from wherever we come from, the first thing that happens, people calling you asking for money.
Mm.
And now, if you're talking about
Sadly enough.
sports, if you're talking about sports, sports is an event that you have to invest in a lot of time before you benefit. And if someone is already asking from the day you landed, asking for money, and which sports does the contrary, you have to invest in time and energy before you reap. So people don't do that. I don't see many immigrants coming and giving their talent, investing in time. You see, I've been training from 2001 until today. It's 24 years I've been training. But not only 20, I've not been earning money, a lot of it. You see, I did it for free. I can say free, but of course I was benefiting. As I said, it took me out of depression. Time came when I had to add on some qualifications and some papers. So I was started paying me. But prior to that, I was doing it free of charge. And we Africans, we immigrants don't do that. It's very rare to find an immigrant because time wasted there. It
Yes,
could be
but
2, 3.
Mr. Kalyango,
Yes, please.
let's look at immigrants are different levels or generations. There is this immigrant Mugisha, who is hustling, is having so many chains back home here and there, and maybe he can't really penetrate. But Mugisha has put to life children. But still, those children are not there. Statistics that doesn't display immigrant children as much involved as others. Where is the challenge? And I just want to tie this to depression and mental health.
I think the second generations are trying to catch up. Sometimes the problem with the second generation is that the first generation puts a lot of pressure on them. You see? And when there is pressure coming from the first generation, they need money, they need that, then of course they don't have time to become part of the nation where they are coming from. Now, what I did in my perspective, I gave my children the right to belong, the right to be themselves, which goes with a big repercussion. Because when you give them the right to be, now I gave them the right to be very Danish, to live as Danish as they can. That means they moved out of the house. But now, as I was saying, I can even have to write and request them to come and eat in Ramadan or Eid. They don't have time for that. No, now those are some of the repercussions. Whereas some other communities, you find that an Arab, even if he moves and comes here and stays here, he still treats his children as he would have done in the Arab country. They still subscribe to him. The father in the house, the money has to go to the father, and the father has to decide. So they don't have time for all that. So they don't really connect like as the real Danes would do. You see? Now I believe that my children, they will have time to go and coach, just as I did. They will have time to integrate and become more like, like the Rio Danes do. Because the Rio Danes, they are not being pressured because of someone who is asking for extra help. So they only work 8 hours and not more than 8 hours. The rest of the hours goes back to the family and goes back to the community.
Yeah, sure.
So we don't have that. The
So
first
now, Mr.
generation,
Kaliao,
second generation. Yes,
now,
please.
okay, yes, now acknowledging the challenge. And in the most part, we are taking the blame. That maybe upbringing methods. We are not generalizing, but okay, I'm speaking for you and I. Maybe others are doing it right. So this is where we are now. Where is the window of hope? What can we do better in line with mental health? Because here we are speaking of, you're recommending people to go out, interact, and engage. But I work in a school, and I realized that sports and athletics is one of the channels through which many Norwegian parents keep their children on track, keep them busy. Just imagine a child that trains 3 times a week. That's a lot of time. So they are committed that in a way, they are guarded from joining peer groups, certain peer groups, and all this pressure that comes from idle minds. So, but now acknowledging the challenge we have as immigrants, what can we do better?
I think what we can do is to acknowledge the fact that money, there is no an ending in earning money. Let's be contented with the little we have. You see, funny enough, even when I was still in Uganda, I would work not more than 8 hours because I had to go for prayers. Dhuhr at 7, at 1, at 13, and then 16 o'clock, and then I had to go for prayers. And after 16 o'clock, I would close my place of work and go for training. I did that even in Uganda. So let's try to be contented with the little we have. That you can never be satisfied with money. And then if you're looking at the bigger picture, which is the life, the health, it needs investment. You cannot expect to have a health body unless you have invested in that body. Now look at me today. I'm 53, turning 54 in May. But I can still do everything. I can train. I can do everything that I used to do when I was 20 years ago. You see? It's only that I've put on a little bit of weight, but that is nothing. So I look at myself, what you see outside could be contrary to what you see inside.
But you've not reversed the figures. Did you say 53 or 35?
No, 53.
You don't know 53.
No, but that goes with investment. I've invested time and energy into my body and my well-being. If I was doing the contrary, drinking and fasting and doing whatever, then the appearance would have seen. You would have seen it from the outlook. And now you could imagine if the outlook is like this, the inner body also has to be affected.
Exactly.
Now imagine you're smoking a pack of cigarettes a day, you're drinking lots of wine and everything. Now imagine the liver and the lungs. I have never drunk any alcohol, I've never smoked, I've never done anything. So you cannot expect my body to be I mean, it's an investment, I've done it. So let's try to work, but at least think about the future. Think about what is going to happen with your life 20 years from now. And when we say 20 years, you think it's too far away, but 20 years I will be 73, inshallah.
Yeah, indeed you will, inshallah, like you just said, but you certainly will be. I remember a couple of years back when I was I think in my teenage, I used to look at people at 40. They looked so old. I looked at them as old men. But right now I'm 41. So time flies. And I was saying, 40. He's a 40-year-old man. So, but now I'm one of them. I don't know how those teens are looking at me, but I believe they are looking at me as not Omusajja Mukulu ennyo. Our beloved viewers, we are coming to the end of the show. We want to thank you so much. Today, it's been a very short, but we believe it's been a short and sweet one. It's been a talk about depression. Mr. Kalyango, a health worker who has a wide range of experience in mental health, working with patients and practicing. work in this line. He's been a victim who proudly with passion speaks out and tells his story, basically to create a U-turn and give hope to those victims or probable victims. He is a football coach and he has told this story. We want to request you to take time, rewatch this show, see what that story has told. Most of this has been personal experience. Maybe it could be what you've been looking for. You know, at times certain things scratch us where it's needed the most. It could be this show that you need to make a U-turn in your life. Mr. Kalyango, I know there would be so much to share. Maybe we could come back one day and take another segment of this because it's really broad. Yes, but now, for now, I need you to leave some parting shots for people out there, particularly immigrants, who perhaps are even depressed but don't know. And there are those who feel that they're only doing the right thing, but it could be a drive of depression. Please speak to those people out there as we wind up the show.
Once again, thank you for having me around. Dear fellow listeners, I would encourage you, if you have any of the symptoms that I mentioned, you feel sadness, hopelessness, low self-esteem, tiredness, loss of appetite, loss of sleeping, sleeping too much, sleeping less, all those, if you feel like you're having those, do seek medical attention. Depression is real and depression does kills. So let's not give it time. And by the way, you're not hopelessness. You're not lazy. You're not sad. There is always light at the end of the tunnel. So whatever voices you hear, the negative voices, change them into positive. I know it's not easy. I've been there, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. So if you can, just come a little bit out, meet the world, meet the good people outside there. There are so many good people who would like to have you in their lives. And if you are thinking of committing suicide, think twice. You are not alone. Many are in the same, but the best among them are those who have changed and have something to talk about. So I hope that this message reaches you out and it can be a turning point for anyone who is not feeling themselves, for anyone who has been in a divorce, for anyone who has lost a beloved ones, for anyone who has lost a job. It is not the end of the day. It's not the end of the tunnel. There is light at the end of the day. I want to thank you once again for having me. I think it is time for prayers. I'll have to leave very soon, sir.
Yes, Mr. Kalyango, thank you so much. I don't want to add anything to those very beautiful and comforting words. I only want to encourage and appeal to our viewers to please take time to rewatch this show in case you came late. And do a kind act. Pass it on to someone you feel might need a pep talk, a nugget of encouragement in line with depression. It could be that answer to that someone's prayer. Do the needful. I want to thank you all for the time you've spared to interact with us on this show. I want to thank my team, Smog John Remy in Denmark, Narumo Irene in Uganda, Jerry Nassar in Sweden, Samantha Elf in Finland, Nagorora Janat Yahaya in Uganda, Esther Nantongu in Uganda, Fred Kasiria in Georgia. Thank you for the good work we do as a team. Tune in for the upcoming shows next week. We shall be, of course, coming up with something very, very catchy. Tune in, stay on Euroforum. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, like our page on Facebook, TikTok, subscribe, and on Instagram. This show will be segmented in clips that will be posted on TikTok. Don't hesitate to visit our page and get nuggets of those. Otherwise, I want to thank you all for giving us time. I want to wish you a great week ahead. For our Muslim brothers and sisters, this is the last week of Ramadan. Our prayer, humble prayer, on your behalf and our behalf as well, that may God answer every single dot of prayer you have on your prayer list. The same goes to our Christian brothers and sisters. This is the Lent period. We also send out a prayer that may God answer every single prayer you have on that list. To our dear ones who have lost loved ones, assets, who have a lot that is going on in their minds, it's again a humble prayer that may the good Lord do the needful. May His will be done in your life. We sign out for now. Moses Mugisha here in Oslo, Norway. Been with Musa Kalyango in Copenhagen, Denmark. Thank you so much. We sign out for now. Bye-bye.
Welcome to Euroforum UG, where we address Ugandans from Europe, USA, Asia, Africa, Australia, and all over the globe. We share experiences, opinions, and expertise on current affairs, educative lifestyle, religion, and family matters. Follow, subscribe, and like our social media platforms: Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok at Euroforum UG. You can also join our live shows every weekend on our social media platforms. For more information, visit our social media platforms or email us at euroforumug@gmail.com or WhatsApp us on +4740 574040. Euroforum UG, communicating with peers.